What's up guys, in this video we're going to be making this modern dining table. All the wood I'm using here is just southern yellow pine 2x6s. To make the tabletop, we're going to joint one face side and one edge side of each plank. If you don't have a jointer or planer, you could get wood that's pre-milled called S4S lumber, and you can find this at your local lumber yard or your local home center. After running all the planks through the joiner, we're going to run the other face side through the planer. So far we've dealt with all the sides except for the opposing edge side. So for that we're going to run all the boards through the table saw. Unfortunately I forgot to record myself doing this, so you're just going to have to imagine me running all the boards through the table saw. Now it's time to glue up all the boards to make the tabletop. So first I lay out all the boards, checking to see which side I like the most, and whichever side I think looks better, I have it facing up. When gluing up the edges of each board, make sure you try to cover all the surface area so you get a nice clean contact. Once you got everything glued up and then clamped together, we're going to let this sit overnight. I do have a hand plane, but to be honest, I'm not the most experienced with these hand tools, so I got a Ryobi belt sander just because I wanted to try it out. As I was flattening out the tabletop with the belt sander, looking back at this, I probably would have checked every once in a while if it was level with a straight edge, but it came out flat enough. After flattening out the tabletop, I still had to cut off the ends as the boards were still different lengths. Now I'm going to be honest, I am either terrible with the circular saw or my blade is a little wonky, so I had to run through the ends with my router to make sure that they were straight. Next up was rounding out the edges with 120 grit sandpaper. After that, with the orbital sander, I sanded the top with 120 grit and then 220 grit after that. So now we're almost ready to stain. I just gotta apply this pre-stain conditioner made by Varathane, and that helps with the blotchiness on pine. After I'm done applying that pre-stain conditioner, I then wipe off all the excess and let it sit for 30 minutes. So now I'm ready to stain. I'm using a dark walnut made by Varathane, and I'm not sponsored, it's just what products are already available to me. But so far using these products, I really like how things are coming out. If you guys have any recommendations on finishers I should try out, let me know down in the comments. Next up is cutting up all the pieces for the legs. Then again, going through the process of running them through the joiner and the planer and the table saw. And once again, we're ready to glue up the pieces for the legs. So the next day after the glue is dried, I use the belt sander and orbital sander to smoothen the surface of the legs. And here's another showcase of my terrible circular saw skills. Maybe one day I'll get better, but for now, we can fix that problem with a router. I did one final sanding with the orbital sander at 220 grit. I applied the pre-stain conditioner again, and then after that, staining it with the dark walnut. The last thing I had to make before putting everything together was just a cross brace that runs across the middle between the legs. Once again, I use the same pre-stain conditioner and same stain. After that, I had to drill pocket holes at each end of the cross brace. In addition to the pocket holes coming from the cross brace to the legs, there will also be a bolt going through the legs to the cross brace. So on each end of the cross brace, I had to add a threaded insert. I wanted to make the bolt coming from the legs to the cross brace a little bit inset, so I used a Forstner bit to do that. Then I had to do the same thing on the other leg. Once I put the legs and the cross brace together, it was time to put some threaded inserts into the bottom of the tabletop. There was going to be 4 bolts coming through the cross brace to the bottom of the tabletop. Just to give it some additional support, I added pocket holes to the table legs that will attach to the bottom of the tabletop. Now it's just attaching the tabletop to the base. Once all the bolts and the pocket screws are tightened, it's time to add a top coat. I chose to use Minwax wipe-on poly in a clear gloss because I love the way it comes out. I first added 2 coats, letting each coat dry for 2 hours, and after letting the second coat dry, I sanded it with 400 grit paper. This was probably a little too rough and should have used 600 grit, but I didn't have any at the moment, but it worked out fine. Then I added just 1 more coat and let it dry overnight. And there you have it, the table's all done.